We're live.
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It's V and Cowboy and our special guest, the man who needs no introduction, the one and only Xoaquin Flores is here, folks.
Hey, what's up? How are you doing? What's good?
Good, Joaquin. And folks, if you want to get a hold of Joaquin, you want to follow him, Cowboy, I don't know if you put the link of his Telegram channel in
Sure did.
Okay, perfect. Click that link. Join his Telegram group. It is mind-blowing. Some of the best intel anywhere. Folks, if you want to get the play-by-play of what the hell's going on in the world, especially how things transpiring in Eurasia itself, which is the real center focus of this entire global paradigm shift, then you need to follow Joaquin. Click that link below. Get informed. And with that being said, good morning, gents. How are you guys doing?
Good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, V.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. It's been a while, and now that we're alive and kicking here on Rogue once again, and we're like, you know what? It's time to put the team back together.
It's like the Blues Brothers.
Exactly, my man.
We're on a mission from God.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on, Joaquin. I don't know where you want to begin.
Well, we got it. We got it actually in the title, Joaquin. We've got the 12-day war. What's next? And I called it the Epstein FU. It's actually the Epstein follow-up. So I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there's that too, though. Yeah, FU.
By the way, before you do that, look in the description. There is a free algorithm. Go in there, click on that. Give us your real name, fake name. We don't care. Give us an email. We'll send you a free algo from Algo Factory so you can see how they're built. But please, Joaquin, enlighten us, sir.
Well, we were talking about there was the 12-day war, and there's been so much that's happened since the last time we talked. So that's like a year of or more of things that have happened. But most recently, we had the 12-day war. I mean, this was just in June. We moved like forward, and we've like now all been talking about Epstein. But there was definitely a little big war, you know, between Israel and Iran happening a month ago. And it's very interesting that the reaction that you have from the Epstein stuff fit a similar model to like reaction on the Iran stuff. And it also shows some like patterns in how Trump does things. So I thought that was pretty interesting that when we got to Epstein, there was like shift away from Iran. And you've had Zelensky in Ukraine trying to get focus on Ukraine. And Trump has basically shrugged it off, saying things are going to happen. Like he took this little posture, like he's upset, and then he drops 50 days, and then they'll look at sanctions. But Ukraine is sort of on its last legs. But yeah, it's been a few things. What interests you in particular?
Well, you know, it's remarkable to see that. I don't know, man. I mean, just this last several weeks has been so like a whipsaw in terms of political events. You had the whole Epstein thing, which, you know, he didn't traffic to anybody, and Ghislaine Maxwell is this poor innocent woman who's sitting in jail for 20 years for trafficking to no one except imaginary people. You know, you have all of a sudden Ukraine. Trump's like, okay, we're gonna send Patriots to, you know, Patriot missile systems over to Ukraine, which every single one of them will be, you know, blown out in no time by the Russians. It's this sudden change of pace, and to right now, I just want to know what your take is, Joaquin, in terms of how things are looking for the Trump administration. This is really, it's almost as if people are asking a question: why is he destroying his own base? Why is he alienating his own base? Is he being controlled? Is the 100 million from Adelson controlling the gambit? Is the AIPAC situation coming into full effect? Is the Israel influence a little too strong within this administration that there are certain things he can do and there's certain things that he can't? Like, what's your take on that? Between the Iran thing, which, you know, he let them fight it out, right? He said, oh, they just got to fight it out, which, again, a strong position to play. And then all of a sudden to the Epstein list was a hoax. I don't know. I'm gobsmacked, man. I don't know where to start or end with that, you know?
I think like so you're talking about American politics, and there's a lot of issues within the spectrum of people that are likely to vote in the machine that Trump has built, or whoever comes after Trump, if they're going to vote for Trump, right? Like that's a question of where the credibility of all the, like, for example, all these things you've been mentioning, where people see Trump or that brand's credibility moving forward. So when I look at most of the, like in my survey of the media sphere and who's talking and who's saying what, is that the criticisms from the base aren't like his base is falling apart, or he's like turned on his base, or the base is turned on him. That's not like what's going on inside the story. So, like, for example, there's a lot of media, and it might be, you know, objective in the sense that it's not pro-Trump and not overtly pro-Democrat, let's say. And they might write like, oh, you know, Trump's row with his base. But that's like the headline. Like, there's definitely something going on. But when you dig into where the base is at and how they feel about the way things have unfolded, like the approval is pretty good. So I think there's not a lot of you know, for example, with Iran, there's, you know, there's like there are, he has different bases, so to speak, but it's the anti-war base is fairly large. And I think once people looked at what actually transpired when the United States got involved, like after 11 days or whatever, and they got involved, it seems that there was a high degree of coordination between Trump and the Iranian government. So I think then he amplified that and telegraphed that pretty loudly at different times himself, like in talking about the way that the Iranians responded and how they had been in contact about de-escalation, and the Iranians, you know, asked to consider like a face-saving return strike. And it seems like upon closer scrutiny that both of these were sort of face-saving strikes, but it's face-saving is in question mark for Trump's strike. And it really actually serves a different purpose, which is to say that we destroyed something, right? So I mean,
what's atrocious here is while the Iranians were in good faith engaging with the Trump administration with these nuclear talks, they're on the 6th round of these talks, and out of nowhere, the Israeli strikes occurred, which right now the Iranians like, okay, so you basically distracted us to hit us, and this is the damage that's been done. Is, you know, how can we negotiate for peace in the Middle East when it's not America's interests that's at the forefront here? That whatever interests we have will be subverted by whatever interest Israel has. And I think that's the whole thing. This really damages our ability to negotiate or to really put forth some sort of diplomatic or really put diplomacy first, so to speak, and it hampers our ability in this regard.
I think you're right if the Iranians really had believed that, but I don't think that the Iranians believed that they were in a safe spot. Prior, 61 or 62 days prior to Israel's launching of the 12-day war, Trump had said that they had 60 days, and after that, there's no guarantee that Israel, like that's the extent of Israel's agreement not to strike. So there's no reason for the Iranians to say, well, there's many good reasons for the Iranians to say they were fooled, but they were not fooled. And they also later admitted, there was like a news piece we ran it on the channel on New Resistance on Telegram, and their commander general guy, whatever, is saying, we knew since back in early March that an Israeli attack was likely. So we prepared for it. During the whole time that we had a posture of negotiations, like we were preparing for it. So now they had just released the official line, right, VJ, that they had been fooled or tricked. So he then adds to this, like, of course, at the moment that the Israelis decided to strike, we were surprised, but they were said that they were preparing the whole time, that they knew the Israelis were going to attack. And it's a matter of the record. This is not a secret. This is not a theory that Trump communicated 61 days before. There's journalism about this. There are articles from the time that Trump said 60 days. Like, it was even on his Truth Social. And it got criticism at the time, but then people forgot when they wanted to say that it was a surprise attack from Israel. But first of all, the United States was not involved in the attack. So one of the things to remember about the fate of Israel in that conflict and why they were doomed, like they were really doomed from the start, was that there had already been an agreement from the United States not to jump in. And in other words, Netanyahu failed to get support from the American side before launching a unilateral attack on Iran. The attack itself, illegal in international law, right? Mm-hmm. It was an Israeli attack. Now, I understand the optics of Trump being the messenger of that, but from the view of that's the time that he was able to negotiate, it also establishes that Israel is not controlled by the U.S. You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
But
don't you think that's kind of gotten undone by this whole Epstein thing? Because it's really brought back are we controlled by Israel? I mean, it's like,
I think that kind of switching and going back to Epstein, we can do that.
We were not allowed to talk about Israel for so many years. We just couldn't talk
about it.
Right.
No, it's so true. It's become an acceptable subject in the media sphere to separate the concept of criticism of Zionism from criticism of Israel, or criticism of or anti-Semitism rather. Yeah. So I think that has been more normalized and made the norm, is like more in line with how people have actually been thinking for a long time. Like the majority of people have been thinking. And but the fact that this is now being allowed and more amplified itself is like a sign of where the U.S. is in relationship to Israel. So I think that there have been times, like not every American president has had a perfect relationship with Israel, but it's been Netanyahu that's been in power for such a long time, And but I mean, Obama had tension with Netanyahu. Trump had tension with Netanyahu. There are different policy things, and the support for Israel is like coming at like too high a cost with like too low a benefit, and it's really bad for public relations, and it's really bad for American diplomacy. It's really bad for diplomacy really anywhere in the world. It's really bad when it talks about human rights anywhere, but is the number one supporter of Israel. So there's a lot of bad optics and bad publicity and lowered credibility that is, it has a tangible value. I mean, it's not abstract. Like your ability to seem credible or to be people that people want to deal with matters in the world, increasingly so now with the United States no longer the world's sole hegemon. It needs actually countries that want to deal with it. So it's the baggage of Israel has kind of come to a head, if you will. But as you say, there's still a lot of influence within the United States, AIPAC, et cetera. But you will see that there hasn't been an American president in many decades that has had as independent or distinct a policy in the Middle East than their policy than the one now between U.S. and Israel. And the most distance, in other words, can you imagine honestly thinking in any other pretext, in any other context, any other president over the past 30 years or 20 years, right? And say before the toppling of Saddam, right? Even if Iraq or Iran attacked Israel, even if it was in response to an Israeli attack, as was the case in the 12-day war, like the United States would have been all in and immediately. And the fact that that didn't happen, what I was trying to communicate was that was the moment in time that from a analytic perspective, like we have now crossed the Rubicon, like we are now in a different paradigm, like where other contingencies may arise and there may be something else that happens. But at that moment and looking backwards, we can now appreciate that the United States did not jump right in. And it really shows that Israel is trying to increase its footprint in the region by 30 kilometers here or there, or strike its neighbors, or strike Iran, strike Syria, strike Lebanon, strike Palestinians trying to get food. But what they aren't doing is increasing their bargaining power with anyone else in the world. So, I mean, they might go back and forth with Turkey, but the idea that they're going to be able to integrate their economy in the region and function as a state with the rising cost of goods and transit and supply line security and oceanic travel. The Israelis are kind of being left out in the cold. They can see it coming 5-10 years from now. It's game over because their two largest importing partners are the European Union and China. It's about 15 billion each, and it's China and then EU if you add all the EU countries together. So it's like China by a long shot, but if you add all the EU together, you could say 15 billion each. And the United States is like a distant third. But
which is funny because we're supposed to be their strongest ally, and yet we're not their largest trading partner.
Right. It's not the largest trading partner. Well, it's logistics. It's like distance, it's time, distance, right?
Yeah.
And the time distance equation, cost, time, distance, etc. equation.
Wait, do you mean to tell me that logistics and mercantilism actually matter in such things?
It actually matters. And
holy shit.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's wild. And so the logistics of their dependence on the Chinese, but the Chinese are shifting a lot of their focus to their road and rail.
Yeah.
And that's going to go through Iran. It's going to go through countries, but it's coming obviously geographically. It doesn't come around India and go up, right, through the Persian Gulf or down, into the Red Sea. So these things are increasingly cost prohibitive, right? I mean, if they're talking about a country, they're just like 6 or 7 million people in Israel. So even with the high per capita productivity, countries with a lower per capita productivity have 10 times as many people. So they're not going to be able to control costs. And a lot of Israelis have dual citizenship. There's millions of them that could leave. So there'd probably be 3.5 million, 4 million that wouldn't, but half of them would be able to leave undeniably, like, drop of a hat. So in other words, they have like an optional population. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that means that there has to be a certain quality of life that makes it, or stability or prospect for the future that makes them not want to leave. And so, I think just like with Epstein, when, people thought one thing was going on and it was going one way and then it turned around, you have the same with Iran. I'm going to ask you a question, BJ.
Yeah.
Because you've heard that, B-2 bombers or Spirit, were they B-1, B-2 bombers, Spirit bombers were used to drop these
Bunker
very
busters.
high payload bunker busters on Fordo Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have yet to see credible evidence produced to verify the claim.
It was actually a couple of Boy Scouts with bottle rockets.
Well, the claim of that Fordo was destroyed, or the claim that B2s were used.
Both claims are false, from what I can tell. Or I'm not the one making the claim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making a claim in the affirmative. I'm saying a claim was made that Fordo was destroyed. It was not, and that B2 bombers were used, and there's not any evidence that they were used.
Yeah, apart from the U.S. government saying, "Oh, we use B2s," there's, But the whole thing is,
there were some graphics of people following the B2s as they were going over. Like, they had some things that I don't really know how true they are, but they had things that made it look true. Besides the U.S. government just saying it.
Right.
Like people following the
look at the
refuelers
mountain,
and stuff.
if we use our eyes and our eyes still function, like there's a tremendous lack of evidence that bunker busters were used.
Right. And I mean, those bunker busters, they could penetrate about 30 meters. Iran had their stuff at 90 between 75 and 95 meters under the earth. Then there's that other aspect of it. Apart from the U.S. government saying that they used B2s, we really don't have any evidence. Whether they did or whether they didn't, we don't know.
But the onus is on the party making the claim in the affirmative. Like, it's a dispositive. Like, I can't prove a negative. Like,
I think it's at the end of the day, I think it's pretty irrelevant what they actually use, because I don't know, man.
I'll tell you why it's relevant. Hear me out.
Sure.
Because what they used were Tomahawks, most likely from the local naval assets.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, the frigates that carry those Tomahawks are not registered, identified class nuclear capable, right? And B2 bombers are nuclear capable. So Iran, just imagine the scenario that it's an unplanned, in other words, a non-coordinated exchange.
Yeah.
That the United States is going in without any communication with Iran, and that they send B2 bombers.
Yeah, part of the nuclear trident, right?
Right. And Iran has a good number of, they lost some in this conflict, but they still have a good number, and they'd all be aimed at this group of B2s of S-350, S-400 equivalent that they've domestically produced. Plus they have like Russian S-300s.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. See, I agree with you in that regard. This whole misnomer of B2 and stealth technology is basically some sort of a marketing ploy to lull the American senses. There's no such thing as stealth. I've said that so many times to the audience. It's a marketing bullshit. 5th gen, 6th gen stealth. These are all marketing terms, none of which is true. A good quality ASA radar system, the kind of like that you find on an S-400 or an upgraded S-300, S-350, those types of ASA radars can find stealth fighters. They can track them. And so
like these B2s were designed with like a totally different military paradigm in mind, against a different type of opponent that might have been near peer at the time the B2 was designed.
Yes.
But so the idea of is that they're high altitude. They're very high altitude bombers. The problem is that actually like the radar works less at the higher altitude. Mm-hmm. So they actually have to be in a little bit lower for the right.
Yes.
But the bigger overarching problem is that all of these Iranian anti-air systems, whether Russian or domestic, all have like a hit ceiling that's still at 85% hit rate roughly.
Yes.
That's like 2 or 3 times the maximum altitude of the high altitude bomber.
Yes.
So then as you're closer, right? You're going to pick up some advantages with your accuracy, right? You might squeeze close to 90%. I don't know, but just as a concept, right? And so you have how many bombers? 2, 4? Like 2 were used? Like none of this makes sense. I mean, the number of bombers you would need running how many numbers of sorties, to chip away at Mount Fordo Mountain. Now,
you would need a few bombers. You would need a couple of these bunker busters going in one after the other, and you're trying to do it in one of the most heavily defended airspaces in the entire world.
right?
I agree with you. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, assume just conservatively a 30% hit rate, like Iranians hit 30% of them down. Yeah, but they're running like, you'd have to run like 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 sorties with like 5 or 6 bombers each time. So you're losing 2 bombers in each sortie. Like, and you would have anyway. There's no evidence of massive Iranian anti-air activity that night in response to that. There would have been, you know what, like what goes up must come down, right? So and there were 2 other sites like Isfahan that were hit as well. And I said immediately when those were hit that those were definitely not hit with bunker busters either, because the markings of the hits, were the same as Fordo Mountain, which also wasn't hit with a bunker buster. It was also hit with tomahawks. So I compared the 2 and said, look, Isfahan was not hit with bunker busters. They were hit with tomahawks. And then like 3 days later, the U.S., the military, the Hegseth or whatever, says that, with regard to, they only use the bunker busters over Fordo, right? That they actually admit that they used tomahawks to strike the other 2 locations.
Yeah, so, Trump actually posted that on his own Truth Social. He talked about the tomahawks. Yeah.
So like, to me, all these things point to tomahawks hit Fordo Mountain, which also means that it was symbolic. Like, not only was the Iranian response symbolic, but it was symbolic. Like the American strike was symbolic, but it was also coordinated, because go back to, may I say, John McCain, who was talking about bomb Iran for years, and they were building up all this AIPAC crap and all of, the neocon stuff, hyperventilating around bombing Iran to destroy its nuclear capability, right? So, well, now it's happened. So, all right, we won. It's all done.
Yeah.
And that's it. You see what I mean? You feel me?
No, I definitely get what you're saying.
But it's still there. It's still fine. And they still have like 1/8 of their enriched uranium from the 2015 deal to give it the other parts to Russia, not IAEA, to Russia.
Right.
So Russia has also that. But the Iranians are saying that, I mean, they played along with the script. There was different things. Like, you see, they had messaging for domestic audience, and then they had some more internationally aimed statements. And like domestically, they were like, nothing happened. The damage is minor, which is accurate. And then, but more like when they spoke in English, or when they spoke directed at Western audiences, they said, there's some serious damage. And then other times that they've mentioned serious damage, they said serious damage that will take a number of months, but not years to like rebuild. So, but, the facility is not, these took, 5, 10, 15 years to build into the state that they are. You see, like, so they're not destroyed if you just need to do some superficial sweeping up of glass and concrete for a couple weeks or a month or 2. And it's not even clear that much damage even happened at Fordo. So it looks like Israel went in without support from the U.S., and they knew they didn't have support going in, and the U.S. and Israel were at odds with each other from go. And Israel's gambit was to be Israel and provoke an attack that Iran would respond, and then Israel would victim claim itself into guilting Western allies into joining in their attack on Iran. And that gambit absolutely failed. 100% failed. Like, we have to know when we've had a victory to appreciate it. It's not just, can we defend that Trump attacked Iran? Like, he didn't fucking attack Iran. Like, he made an agreement with the Iranians. It's Israel that got left holding the fucking bag. So that's my case.
No, that's a excellent, well thought out breakdown, man. I that makes total sense to me.
I mean, I know it's a wild, time to be alive.
Yeah,
and see the stuff, happening. But
what's your take? The wild card here, you have you have the whole Israel thing, you have the whole Greater Israel project, and you have a nuclear armed Israel. What is your take on this? I think during this whole Iran Israel 12-day war, the world, finally the normies started hearing a concept that guys like us known for quite some time, and that's called the Samsung option, right?
Yeah.
And now they're like, what the hell's a Samsung option?
Well, the Samsung option was the beeper attack, right?
Yeah, better than the Nokia.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So people are like, wait a minute. They started looking at into the Samsung option. They're like, wait a minute. These crazy psychopaths are willing to nuke the whole world.
Yeah.
And some of those lists. Yeah, straight up Dr. Strangelove levels of insanity. And they're like, wait, hold up, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And now people are like, we need to defund Israel.
Right. Yeah, well, also demilitarize them. Like a good way to demilitarize them is to get them to throw all their payload at Iran.
Yeah. Or imagine if there was a country maybe farther north and a bunch of Western countries were forced to give that country a bunch of their arms to fight a greater adversary over a 2 or 3 year period. I'm not saying that's really happened, but
Yeah, right. No, but that's a good point. I mean, that was actually what was being cautioned about at the start. Like, remember that at a certain point, Israel agreed to give up like a huge part of its stockpile reserves that they had that they held in common with the U.S., which the U.S. had possession of. So Israel was never compelled to send weapons, that they wanted, but they were mad that they were sent to Ukraine, and they never got those back. And then Israel, like we talked about on the show before, had made a decision that they, even though they could have a Patriot system or a THAAD system or whatever, mainly they went with a domestic approach where they opted to develop their own military-industrial complex a bit here and develop the indigenous anti-air system with its own missiles. They're non-compatible with the NATO or U.S. type, you see. So they're sui generis, and they just have they're made the capacity. There's no surge capacity in Israel, and there's no possibility like that South Korea or Ukraine can send them these things. You see what I mean? So right now they're scrambling. They can't even attack Iran right now if they wanted to. Right? I mean, they're still rebuilding their anti-air systems, and it's slower and more expensive for them than it is for Iran.
It is. I mean, they had their whole air defense system was completely eviscerated. The Iron Foam. The Iron Dome became the Iron Foam, the David Sling, what else? THAAD, Arrow 1 and Arrow 2, all of them were just completely obliterated, completely bypassed. And now it's funny also, and we got to really look at the narrative here. The Greater Israel map, I think last week was leaked. And we started seeing that now the Turks are woken up like, what? Wait a minute. Greater Israel, that's like half of Turkey, as well as the northern half of Saudi Arabia,
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a little different from the Yangon plan, but it's very reminiscent.
Very, very. You want to break that down, like what's happening with in that regard? That now not only the world's waking up to the Samsung option, now the whole Greater Israel play is coming out. And now, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Matt Gaetz, former Congressman Matt Gaetz, just did a TV show where he's talking about how Christians are being mistreated in Israel, something that's no one's ever talked about that. You got these scumbag evangelical pastors like John Hagee and all these douchebags here who are absolute psychos, going out there like, oh, God, Israel's God's people, blah, 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 and just putting out really bad exegesis, really bad eschatology, and a really, really bad theology to begin with. And now we're seeing videos coming out of Christian groups being beat, spit on, beaten to death,
That's right.
Mistreated left and right in the quote unquote Holy Land. And it's like the mask is coming off in some regards. So there's some victory there. What are your thoughts on that, Joaquin?
I have the same thoughts that you have. I think, no, very well articulated. I totally agree with you, man. And it's very interesting that, the fact that Christians are often mistreated by Israeli youth in the holy parts of Old Jerusalem and throughout Israel at holy sites has been going on for decades. And it's something that it's weird because it's something that the left, or like left wing, not like Democrats, but maybe reluctant Democrat at times voters, but the left in the US and the West used to know, was way ahead of the curve on that. And they would point out like, hey, in Israel, like Christians, like you right wing, Zionist Christian conservatives, like are actually spit upon when you go visit there. And it kind of fell on deaf ears for decades. So I'm very excited about the time that we're in, if you really think about it, because like the people that need to think those things now think like the people who need to actually have those ideas now have those ideas, right? Yeah. Like Christian conservatives now, they're like, whoa, like Israel's values are not Christian values. Like what, and look at what they're doing to the Palestinians. Like a Christian would never condone that or could never justify that, right? Like it's so raw, it's so in your face, it's so unapologetic. There's not even like an attempt to say that there's a misunderstanding or something about, right? There's like, this is just like raw genocide. And it's such an affront to how Christians understand civilization. And I mean, there's a lot of history and a lot of crimes, and a lot of crimes have been committed at different times in the name of one sect or other of Christianity. But the historical, like the Christian ethos, has been one of a triumph against those prevailing social norms, which regrettably many Christians also subscribed to in their time. Yeah. But it was really the triumph of Christian norms against those historical injustices that were actually always against Christianity. It's just we had many exceptions in different sects and churches throughout history that would make, convenient exceptions for that. But in the case of Israel, there's no misunderstanding like what they're doing to Palestine. There's no even attempt at an excuse that isn't simply based in an overtly racist, settler colony mindset that they have a different and better human right, that there are two categories of people and they themselves are in the better one. And this is like such an abhorrent thing. Anywhere in the world, like that you would go to, you would find like, yeah, that's a pretty abhorrent idea. So I think that describes why Israel is becoming increasingly isolated. Like in the Matt Gaetz thing, they were talking about boycott, divestment, sanctions. Yeah. And for this to be happening on the Christian right, if the Christian right goes in on BDS, and that becomes like pressure on MAGA congressmen, not just BDS pressure like on Democrats, then this is, full spectrum domination. Things are going in the right direction. So, yeah.
I guess I would have a question to take it back to like the 30,000 foot view. And this can go to both of you, but so up until a year ago, we couldn't talk about quote unquote the Jews, right? And the way I had it was in the US, the way that the veil was pulled was the Christian right, the evangelicals were told based on bad exegesis, which means bad interpretation of the Bible, that they had to support Israel. And then the left, they didn't seem to have a problem, a lot of it because it just seems that, our friends in the Levant continue to champion liberal causes. I mean, if you look at every single, liberal cause, there's somebody of that, persuasion amongst the leadership.
You mean like the Feinstein left or the Barbara Boxer left or like the Chuck Schumer left? They're like,
the Epstein left,
The Epstein left, yeah. But I mean, there's also the the more like left of AOC left that's like critical of Israel and supports Palestine.
See, now you're getting to where I was going to ask, because the left of the left, and then now you have also, you could say the right of the right. I don't really prefer to think in those ways. Like, I think that's all an illusion anyway, but it's a good heuristic for the conversation. So they've painted themselves into a corner where they seem to have upset everybody. But the reason that was allowed to happen is because we're allowed to talk about it. And it seemed like that started to happen maybe not too long after October 7th. And I'm just curious to wonder what your guys' opinion on like what switch was flipped. Like, why are we now allowed to talk about it without getting canceled, etc.? Because it used to be you even mention it on YouTube and like your channel disappears.
Yeah.
I think that reflects that in the United States that the power elite have decided that the support that they're going to have for Israel in the future is going to be like Israel's going to need to rebrand or something. They're going to need to change a lot of things. And that might not even be enough. But between that and pressure from the rest of the world, right? Like, look at Gaza right now and what they need to be able to rebuild and invest and rebuild Gaza. Like, they can't do it without Chinese investment, and they can't do it without working through the Arabs in the region. It's just logistically impossible to cut out the Arabs. And why shouldn't they invest and share the risk? They need the money. They need the capital advanced, real capital, right? Not this crisis dollar. So I think when you look at who's holding the cards on rebuilding Israel, like tens of billions of dollars of damage to Israel, you saw billions and billions of dollars of damage. As Working Brother was pointing out, there were a lot of strikes that looked like, Israel hit a parking lot next to a military office. And it's like, no, that was their deep underground, 40 meters or 50 meters, like hittable, strikeable, not 500 meters. But they had a 50 or 100 meter bunker, big facility. And you saw those get hit everywhere. And it was leaked in the Israeli press, but you'd have to be reading Haaretz and Ynet, etc., every day or every other day during this, like I was. And the push or the desire for a ceasefire came from Netanyahu, who then denied it. And then it was like a reversal, because then Trump suddenly orders the bombing that didn't happen on places that didn't get bombed, except no place. Fordo is claimed, no evidence that Fordo was hit. And what we're left with is Netanyahu now has achieved his policy aim, and they twisted his arm at the end, you saw, and they got Netanyahu to say that the nuclear facility at Fordo was destroyed or majorly damaged.
Yeah.
So now, he's turned on. Well, they had to punish the Palestinians some more first, of course. It's almost like a Pavlovian thing with them. And then they went and they struck Damascus several times. They struck the Ministry of Defense office as American contractors were driving by. Big complaint was filed. Totally works against the peace that Trump is trying to make in the area, and whatever he's trying to work with Erdogan in taking the sanctions off of Syria, delisting HTS as a terrorist organization, like things in this way, which give something that costs nothing to Trump from Erdogan. And you see Trump is really balancing Turkey and Israel on Syria. But when the Israelis again struck Syria and started to strike Syrian forces in Sueda, the State Department, the Trump administration issued a statement condemning this. So, it's again, so many interesting things that don't really get on people's radar screens because it doesn't fit a narrative. Like like what's the very interesting thing is that a lot of Trump voters are satisfied with much less information to keep supporting him. Mm-hmm. And then like Trump critics, like at first glance, seem to have more information and they're more interested in criticism as a subject, or they're like more critical thinkers, but it's like a low fucking resolution take, excuse my French. So, you know, like when I like we talk about the view from 30,000 feet and trying to map out the contingencies, it's like if people can map out Trump's possible contingencies and they can elaborate what are the things he's likely to be trying to do with a certain bizarre action or statement, and then you forecast, you know, what are the 2 or 3 things that can probably happen if this was intentional.
Yeah.
And then, you know, one of those things is exactly what happens. Then haven't we shown that he planned it also? Like we don't even have skin in game. Like think about the fucking stakes involved in empire. You know, it would be retarded if there wasn't. It would be impossible if there wasn't a contingency plan.
Yeah,
it's like reality doesn't work that. Like a person has to have never had a management position or maybe even had a fucking job in their life to think that these entities aren't planning shit like strategically, right? So yeah, it's
that actually speaks to in the time we have left, and talking about Trump making some kind of comment and maybe there's a plan behind it. I know a lot of people here, myself included, are a little bit burned after 2020. We had a lot of trust the plan go on, and that might have been a rehash of Operation Hope from, you know, when the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks came through, and a lot of people were in Imperial Russia were fooled into not doing anything because they thought somebody would come save them. And then we had QAnon, and so a lot of us are very very reticent to try to hold hope that there is a plan. And I know we didn't really get into Epstein just yet, but if we were to kind of categorize that, you know, you have an interesting thing where people from very odd camps are calling for the Epstein information to get released. And there's a big uproar. And on your Telegram channel, which, you know, I'm there quite a lot, there are a lot of receipts. We have receipts all the time. And what I mean to say by that is, for the audience here, you know, Xoaquin's very good at putting out some possible forecasts that, you know, a fair amount of them often come true to a fair degree. Like, and that's better than you can ask. You know, V the Gorilla has that same skill. These are the people I like to work with, folks. So on Epstein, like, what is your opinion on the affair that you think is the best way to look at it, especially for, you know, those of us who, I don't know, need to hear it?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story because I feel like so much of how people approach Epstein, they remember that Epstein is a bad guy. They remember the human trafficking. They remember that this is connected to blackmail for influence scheme, and compromise. But they don't remember like who in the first place amplified this, and then what was the, you know, even people that were grifting and had no interest in the human trafficking crisis or the, you know, the pedophilia rings or whatever, jumped on this because it was what people were interested in, because this had been sort of validated by this presidential candidate in 2015-16, right after he comes down the escalator. And it becomes like this huge, almost like conspiracy theory that he's amplifying, and he's like retweeting people saying that he's going to bring down, you know, that they're going to go after Epstein and the island and Ellen DeGeneres and Oprah Winfrey, right? Like the whole story, right? And the Clintons, the Obamas, whatever, the whole kit and caboodle. So they, like, that was Trump who built that expectation. Like it didn't have to, like, and then even if you just like forget all of that, right? Like Epstein and Maxwell were arrested and were like only, well, in the case of Maxwell, like successfully arrested. I mean, if Epstein is dead, that's, you know, God forgive me, but that's successful. And if Ghislaine Maxwell only under Trump was arrested by Trump's DOJ. Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison right now, not for 4 years, but for 20. So, I mean, and she's 63 years old, by the way, by the time that, or 61 years old at the time that she goes in for 20 years. So that's like a life sentence unless she's, you know, I mean, you know, I guess women can be 87, sometimes 93, whatever. But I mean, that's basically it. So as this whole nonsense with Epstein is returned, even though people thought that Trump was saying, oh, no, this is not at all interesting to me. This is just like, you know, the Brer Rabbit in the briar patch. Like, don't throw me in there. Don't bring up Epstein. And he was like, don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. I don't know why. We're not going to disclose anything. Like, he's making people more mad. It was great. He trolled everybody into demanding it. Whereas if he had released it just as part of a disclosure or prosecutorial process, he would have been accused of weaponizing the DOJ to go after his political opponents. Right. So then they got this kayfabe with Elon Musk going before. Right. So then people thought when Elon Musk said, oh, Trump's in the Epstein files, it got even smart people being like, oh, shit, Trump's in the Epstein files. It's like, of course, you fucking dumbass. Like, remember, he was like mentioned in the fucking trial by Virginia Giuffre. He was like mentioned here. And he was always like said that he was not involved in stuff. Like, that was what always came out of Trump's interactions with Epstein. Like, that would be in the file. Like, he's been, you know, to the island, and the whole point is that he was not involved in stuff. Like, that's what had come out in grand jury testimony previously. So then you had, so the whole story is hilarious, right? I mean, think about the issues that were pushed in the 2024 election, you know, everything that was going on, right? The Epstein stuff wasn't that prominent. In fact, there is like kind of some other very big issues that are parallel or even more important in terms of like actionable today, right? Not crimes of the past, but things going on now. You've got like, you know, Israel, Palestine, Iran, Russia, Ukraine, the tariffs. Are we going to invade Canada? Are we going to take Greenland? Right. And then it's kind of like out of nowhere, 2025, actually, right? Yeah, it feels like forever. No, just 6 months ago, Pam Bondi is like, Epstein files coming out, right? Like that's why you're fucking thinking about this, because like so I don't know. People just have to remember the order of events and why these things are even subjects and why we're even talking about it. And then at the same time, supposedly around the big beautiful bill, Elon Musk and Trump have a falling out. Like, you know, right. If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. And Elon Musk was like living at Mar-a-Lago, man. He's like Cato Kalin at Mar-a-Lago. And, you know, like,
took it back to Cato Kalin, dude.
You know, they're doing the trust building exercise and shit, you know, like on belay on. They're like campfire together every fucking night. BJ.
Well, there was an article that came out, I think yesterday, where and one of the reasons that of the supposed fight between the two is that Trump was going to cancel the grants or whatever subsidies for Elon's rocket company, and those have been uncanceled. Like, oh no, we need them. Trump said
uncanceled, by the way, right? So there you go. Yeah. So did you have a schedule? I know we started a little late. Did you have a schedule for like another? Like 10 minutes or
yeah, absolutely. Go for it, man.
Yeah, okay, we're good. We're good for 10.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I was just checking our time.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, well, just in talking about how they set up the Epstein stuff, they got people to demand it, and on the New Resistance channel, we were broadcasting the whole time before, like, this is to troll people into saying release it and to get out of being accused of, like, how Democrat media like Jack Taper and all these people that on Democrats and congressmen, they're trying to write bills like let's impeach him until he releases the Epstein files and shit. Like, if he would have been the one to be releasing them first, they would have said, oh, you can't release. Oh, what is this fake files? They manufactured them. this is going after his political opponent. So they got the outcome that they wanted, right? And now people demand it. And then look at all this stuff that has been coming out now at the same time, following up on the CIA's report that the CIA lied and created or changed the criteria, whatever, to allow the Russia collusion hoax to get a little more air for a little more longer, right? Mm-hmm. That the CIA was complicit. Like this CIA has published openly that the old CIA was complicit in the Russia collusion hoax. And then now you have Gabbard, right? She's saying at the ODNI that what? She's saying that Obama himself was the one that held a meeting and effectively brought, convinced, cajoled, coerced, whatever, the heads of the different intel organizations to like change their guideline criteria or whatever, so that they could say that, very similar with Iran and IAEA, like to say that, well, we can't say that we know that nothing ever happened or something, instead of, but that's not the thing you're looking for evidence that that of what your claim is, not an absolute claim that you can never fully know. Like, you're right. So they clearly weaponized the DOJ to prevent a popular candidate from running, from surviving impeachment. It was effectively a coup, in the words of the ODNI. So Gabbard. So those are very interesting, that like, as people were kind of distracted by Epstein, one thing, this, right? And if there's a number of other things popping too, but it's been the close of the last week was event filled.
Didn't Trump say they want to, or I don't know if he has the power to do this, but they want to unseal the grand jury testimony regarding Epstein as well?
Yes. There's going to be things that can be released, and then there's going to be things that could be released, but if you intended to use them in a prosecutorial sense for a high-profile case where the government already has the evidence and doesn't need to declassify it to its own prosecutors. In other words, if the AG has it, then it's declassified. You understand? Like, the whole thing that people are missing is that if the AG has it, it's been declassified. It's just not been made public. That's not the same thing. And in other words, the whole point of declassifying things so that they can be made for prosecution is so that they can be declassified so the AG can have them. You understand? So, but the problem in a public declassification, not something that's given with discretion, with authority to prosecute to the AG, is that if you publish all your evidence, right, you're going to contaminate your prosecution, right? You're going to be telling people that are likely going to be charged exactly what the charges are, how you got the information together, and you don't even have them under arrest. They're going to be destroying evidence. They're going to be getting their stories straight. They're going to be claiming, like, in the press, if these are leaked and the public has an opinion very strongly about the potential guilt of people that we would charge, well, then you're never going to find an impartial jury. They're going to win on jury contamination. They're going to get shit thrown out. It's just like very obvious that when Democrats are calling for release the Epstein stuff, like, they understand that their stuff is in there, but if they can just get it out, well, they'll take the hit because they don't have any fucking reputation to spare. Their brand is trash, right? They're like Netanyahu saying, I support Assad. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want the Democrats to endorse what you're doing. Like, they have cooties. Like, you'll get social media aids from the Democrats. Like, they don't win elections.
Right.
So, their brand is in such bad shape that the point is not that, so they're going to get out of the political, they're going to get out of the legal prosecution because jury contamination and getting ahead of the curve on the evidence. And yet, if they were hoping that Trump is in there, or in some other way that like Elon Musk was hinting at or alleging, I suppose. And then that is going to destroy Trump politically, right? Because in other words, everyone else is subject to a normal criminal procedure, or if there was wrongdoing, right? But the president, the point, they don't care about Trump the man. They don't care about Trump in a civil case or Trump in a criminal case outside of his role of president. Like the problem that they have is that Trump is president, right? So they have the method of impeachment to remove a president, which is like a political process that's driven by people's notions about what's going on politically and what's right and wrong. It's not really driven by actually, did you commit a crime? It boils down to whether this committee votes to proceed with the impeachment and the next committee. It's all about the number of votes. It's all about the political machine. It's not about an impartial jury, right? It's presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roberts, I suppose.
So to make it like, to kind of boil it down, the idea here is that releasing the files, quote unquote,
yes,
is something that would have a contaminated jury scenario. So anybody who is implicated in said files would be able to not be prosecuted because of a contaminated jury. And the other end of that is they're hoping Trump is in there and his reputation will be damaged. So this is why you have people from some very odd camps calling for the release of data that might even have them in it. And maybe they're embarrassed.
Yes, Nick. Yes, but it's like people are confused because it's the year 2025 and we're all fucking babies. But when we were small, growing up, watching TV shows, we remember stuff like, oh yeah, they released the files, they declassed the files so the person could be prosecuted. But that always meant, like to grown-ups 50 years ago or 40 years ago, that always meant that they were declassified for prosecutors. In other words, the AG has them, not like for us. Like, who the fuck are we? You know what I mean? Like, so does the AG or the state DA, right, have the, like, depending on the type of case that it is, like, do they have the evidence or is it classified? Do they have the evidence or is it classified? So it's like the whole story is nonsense. Like there was never even such thing called Epstein files until January 2024. It's like people have been following this sometimes since 2008, but definitely since like 2015. And no one ever said Epstein files, release the Epstein files. Like, in other words, like the whole talk about Epstein files is like a year and a half old.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't mean what people think it means, you know?
No,
yeah,
of course.
story,
Mob bosses, they take their entire list of criminal associations and they write down each criminal and what crime
right.
they
How
committed
ridiculous
together.
is that? Right.
And it's in a little black book.
Now, here, let me make the RICO chart for you. See, I know this
Right.
guy and I sell to this guy. See, this is how much I sold him. It's like, give me a fucking break, people. But yeah, but that's people for you. You gotta love them. I'm very happy to be alive, and I love people though.
Do you think anything will come down the road with this whole Epstein thing? In terms of the individuals that were part of this blackmail operation?
You know what? I already saw Netanyahu get told to turn those planes around when he attempted to break the ceasefire the morning.
Right, I remember that. Yes.
So I bet there's all kinds of things. See, the thing is, like, prosecuting is you can do, but you can't prosecute if you release to the public, number one. But if you prosecute, now you've played those cards, right? In other words, like, you might get someone to flip or turn someone or pressure someone to do what you want them to fucking do. And so you're not charging them, right? But you can hit them with that hammer like over and over and over again. It's a fucking gift that keeps on giving. Like, blackmail never fucking goes away. Like, why would you even play that card in a way that you only can play it once, like by charging somebody with it? It's the threat that you could charge them, but not that you can twist their fucking arm, not just once, but twice, fucking 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, you know? So, that's how I think about it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I see utility both ways. Interesting.
And that could be an unpopular opinion too, but this is compromat, then it's blackmail.
Yeah.
And when you spend it,
master.
when you spend it, it's gone. And I know it's something that I've talked about, and a lot of people don't want to hear that. And again, I think we've been disenfranchised by, QAnon and nothing happened in 2020 and the president is in a bunker and he's got the nuclear code. Do the thing, V. Do the Alex Jones thing.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Joaquin and Nick, I read the white papers, and right now the deep state is hiding in fear. Trump's in control of the entire organized white helmets, and they're moving right now with QAnon in order to take out the deep state.
The Patriots are in
Infowars.com.
control. The empire's on the run.
The empire's on the run, Xoaquin.
And I'm gonna vomit. I'm gonna vomit.
Oh yeah, when he was saying, remember? I'm just so sick. I'm so queasy in my stomach right now. I think I'm gonna vomit. Yeah. Oh, that was great. Brilliant. Good. That was a good one.
No, he's got that one spot on. We got a few on the show. We like to have a little fun. A few impressions.
I mean, Xoaquin, you covered a lot of ground, and it's good to have your perspectives, man, because one of the talents you have is able to look at so many different angles, so many different layers to this. I mean, information is like that. Data is like that. It's a complicated, multi-layered thing. And, we could only see certain angles, but when we have somebody like you on and you go ahead and you start breaking down other angles, and you know what? I think the big picture is starting to come into focus, where we are in a global power struggle. Now, before we let you go, how do you think is going to transpire right now with the U.S. dollar, the whole BRICS thing, and Trump supposedly declaring war on the BRICS?
Right.
How do you see this happening? Like, the U.S. economy is in a shit ton of trouble.
Right.
In reality, the real economy, not the fake. The speculative economy is fine.
Yeah.
But the real economy is in a whole shit. Is in a lot of trouble. What do you think is going to play out in the next year or two?
Yeah. Well, the reason that you're asking me is that, like, when we were talking about the Epstein or the Israel-Iran stuff, is that it's not just that looking at it now that I'm, post hoc rationalizing those things by giving it a narrative today. Like everything I said on this show, I said days and weeks before the things actually happen that way.
Correct.
So that's why you're asking me about what's going to happen. Is that I'm not just telling to show people, oh, this is what happened last month. I realized it fucking yesterday. Like, this is what we were saying, and an uphill, man. Like, people were calling me out. People were saying, oh, 5-dimensional chess. People were like, people were fucking relentless. People were up my ass, dude. And I was like, nope, this is what's going to happen. This is what he's going to say. It's going to go like this. And it went that fucking way. So with that in mind, this is all optics, anti-BRICS. The United States knows its only future is to be able to be a player in the type of architecture that BRICS is constructing. BRICS is just the format for it. Could be a BRICS. It could be BRICSA,
BRICSA.
or BRICSUSA, whatever, America, Brazil, or BRICS USA.
Yeah.
Man, it's like the United States is going to backplug into BRICS. It's the only way forward.
It is the only way forward. I agree with you on that. Yeah. I'm looking at Europe, and Cowboy and I, we kick the whole European thing back and forth, and it's like,
sure.
From my sources that are in Europe as well, and you being in that side of the world right now, it's looking pretty bleak for the EU, man.
Yeah.
I think they've went full retard, bro.
They went full retard. Yeah, I mean, countries that put sanctions on Russia, like, thankfully we're not one of them here in Serbia. So we have
hey, what's the deal with your Serbian? What is it? The new president over there? He's bringing in Ghanaians. The foreign minister. Yeah.
With what?
Oh, with the importation of Ghanaian migrants.
Yeah. So they're going to be laborers or something like this. Was the story I read? I'm not sure. I didn't read beyond the headlines.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Just laborers are what's it called? Yeah, the laborers are being imported from Ghana, and Serbia is having a 10% youth unemployment. So,
well, it's 9% for adults over 25, which is low historically, and it's 25% for people under 25.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
But that's very misleading. So Serbia didn't do the sanctions on Russia, so it's had extraordinarily cheap rates for energy. Like, compared to Germany,
Oh, forget
Germany's
about it.
paying like 3.5 to 4 times Serbia's rate.
Sure.
So we've like the country is only like 6.5, 7 million people. And we're tracking like from 2023 to 2024, like we bought extra energy to support $8 billion of GDP growth in fiscal 23-24. So fiscal 25, Serbia's the European metric has among the highest or the highest growing GDP in geographic Europe, to be clear, in geographical Europe. And this is driven by energy. So when your economy is growing faster than your population growth could possibly grow, because you're talking about in the period of 5 years. So even if you had a natal policy today, you wouldn't have adults to work these jobs. Like the economy's has expanded extraordinarily here in Serbia in the past couple of years. We've been doing very well, like in the context of the war between Russia and Ukraine, because we can even like shelve or trade in a sense, either for influence or directly the access to energy or the energy surplus that we bought itself. So it's enough energy to fuel. We buy enough extra energy just in those two fiscals alone to fuel an additional 8 billion GDP growth each year for a population of 7 million people.
Yeah.
Right. So now remember, we took in 1 million Russians and Ukrainians at the start of the SMO. So we've augmented like the population this way, but you might consider it in some ways more similar population, although maybe a little bit more fair skinned. But then we brought in some dark people, so then they'll have some kids and it'll like even out and produce Serbs, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm partly kidding, but like the population can absorb like all of that. But like the point is that these 10 years ago, youth unemployment was like 33%. It's only 25% now, like should be the news. But like this was a culture that like people say, like people under 30 or who don't have kids are like saying like, I'm looking for a job and hoping I don't find one. Like that's the expression. They say it in Serbian. Like I'm looking for a job and hoping I don't find one is the exact verbatim translation.
Gotcha.
And like it's a culture where people don't have a pressure. Like it's not like there's kick your kid out of the house at 18 and roll him down a hill like the Spartans and see if he dies or survives. Like, they the informal economy is huge here. Like every third person is like fourth person is like their own small business owner in any given suburbia in Serbia. And like, so if you're like 40 or 50 and you have you're a welder or you like, the cost for going into business is extraordinarily low.
Yeah.
Like the bureaucracy and the administration is like extraordinarily like one shot easy. And, there's not like a bunch of licenses and things that you can be denied and rejected, or it's not cost prohibitive to start the business up. The zoning is very flexible. You can do auto repair from your garage, things like that. So it's like, it avoids a lot of things like renting in a certain business district. Serbia is like much more free in a lot of these ways. And then like people have their sons working for them, but it's under the table. So the black or the informal economy is huge in Serbia, and it's something that people have like it. Serbs live under the Turks for like 500 years of occupation. They figured out like ways of, being tax avoidant or being self-reliant and how to build businesses and employ people without like needing to like, be on some egghead at the Department of Tax Revenues, like even fucking know that it's happening. So it's statistics and figures about Serbia's unemployment are like borderline irrelevant to begin with.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Sicily and Italy, because my family is, come from there, and they were ruled by, the Moors and whoever else, however many times, especially in Sicily. And that's why the mafia even came to be, because they
You
just
know how to hide
don't-
your money from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even now, like tax avoidance in Italy is like their national pastime. So
Yes, I think Serbia has the same one. So tax avoidance is like a cult or a religion, but people also support like the things that the taxes do go to. So it's funny. Like they don't want to vote against the social system for old people or the social medical or the high schools, the colleges. Like they want that, but they just pay as little as taxes as possible. So it's crazy, right? It's like, but it's cool. And but yeah, so yeah, anyway, so bringing in 50,000, 100,000 Ghanaians. Russia's bringing in 1 million Indians, 1 million from India. Russia's bringing in. Yeah, so there's so many different things, because like in Russia's case, it's driven by the war, and all of it's, but it's not what you think. It's not like, oh, they're losing people. No, the expenditure on the military industrial complex, right, has been tons of guaranteed money into industrial expansion, right? So now you have all these jobs. So that's created like a wages driven cost push inflation. So you have CPI inflation, and they're unable to, let's say, have a competitive market with the distortion of more jobs than people, right? So Serbia, likewise, it's very interesting because it's not at war. There's not a military industrial complex, but it's been through the state negotiated energy price. So like the state kind of has the monopoly on access to energy that's fueling the economic growth in the country. So construction's going up. A lot of things are happening in Serbia. It's definitely like everywhere you see like a new little project is definitely a country with like a budget, surplus for these things. So they're investing in it, and they've been able to do this like by being like Hungary or being like Slovakia, except they're not in the EU, so they're not even notionally, required to do these sanctions against Russia. But they didn't, and the protesters in Serbia are not complaining about the migrants, because the protesters at this point in Serbia are from a different social caste that, in Serbia. Like they're not, you see young people, but you see that they're not talking about employment. They're complaining about their conditions as students, which means that they're adult students, not unemployed. They're not youth unemployed. They're like students, right? So it's I think that they would be better to subsidize in some way the higher wages and push more to attract Serbians to these jobs. But but right now, like the informal economy is such that like you can't get like a lot of Serbian people to get out of bed for less than like $900 now. Whereas like 5 years ago, you could, for $500 or $600.
Yeah.
Now it's like hard to get them to get out of bed for like less than 900. And like people that can do something, that have an accreditation or a skill. So you have an economy that's growing faster than population. You're going to bring in migrant workers. I question personally, like how compatible that population is going to be. We've had a lot of problems already with people being imported from other parts, like from the subcontinent, and we've had incidents that really that they could potentially destroy the local culture, because culture is something that you don't really appreciate if you live in a place that doesn't really have, or that has a culture that's based just around baseline transactions or something like that and politeness. But like in Serbia, people feel safe on the street because it's culturally homogeneous.
Yes.
It's like ethnically and culturally homogeneous. So like it's not there's not phenotypic homogeneity, which is interesting. Like Serbs can be like black haired with pretty dark olive skin, or very blonde and blue eyed, and they're all 100% Serbian. It's not like this, oh, are you British and is this person more Spanish? It's like, no, they're all just Serbs, you know? But it's culturally homogeneous. And people, you know, you always see like groups of young kids, you know, on even a Thursday or Friday night, like especially in the summer during the week, 3 a.m, just like a, you know, group of 14, 15-year-olds safely walking through a park in the middle of the city. You wouldn't have that like in Central Park. Like, in other words, like Serbia did not have like permanently marginalized subcultures. You know, this was a huge difference with Western countries that had been importing laborers since, you know, the 17th century for some of them, like the US, but like it's created a lot of cultural tensions and racial tensions that just like don't exist in Serbia. And now we're starting to have them. Like we had like some Sri Lankan guy, who knows why he's here, except that the government's doing this policy. And he wasn't a tourist. I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, starts following some girl on the bus. And like these guys maybe haven't seen girls like this before, except maybe on TikTok or, you know, Instagram or something like this. But this is where they come from, like the ones they see on OnlyFans or wherever else, you know? So they're like lose their fucking minds when they come to the country, because like, how can it be every single girl looks like this? Like every single one is like a 10. So they start following them around and stuff. They're fucking, but where they come from, they like, they don't know what to do or something. So they start following them home and shit. And like, anyway, so this girl was being followed on the bus and she had to call her dad. And the dad met her at the bus stop and decked the guy, knocked him out flat that was stalking her.
Beautiful.
Police come and they're like, yeah, like, you could have done more than that and we would have supported you. Yeah. So, you know, that's a good thing to hear. But the fact that the situation happened is like, you know, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing.
Well, that's what, you know, I think that we are not willing to take a look at why our own youth in Western countries is not willing to go out and do the work that these other people are willing to do. And a lot of it has to do with, I think things have just been way too easy for way too long. And I think parents are coddling their kids. And so no one wants to go do the low paying hard work jobs. And I'm not going to talk about whether or not they should be higher paid. That's not part of the conversation. But the culture, and I hate to say this, but I think the culture needs to go through some pain financially before we're going to see your everyday kid go get a job at McDonald's. This is not going to happen. Not in the US, not in the West. You know,
yeah, I mean, the employers, why would employers want to hire a teenager or a 20-something-year-old in the United, or even a 30-something-year-old in the United States? Why would an employer want to do that? They know their rights, they're citizens. Like if I'm an employer and like if I'm just have a job without growth potential and it's as low wage as possible, there's more money in my pocket. Like I want exploitable people. Like I want people that aren't from the country, that maybe don't know people, that labor laws, they're afraid of claiming their rights because they could get deported. Like I would want to have like a sweet spot policy where like Democrats were letting him in the country, but Republicans were voting to keep them from getting legalized. You know, I would like want that perfect combination, you see, and that's like kind of the combination that we got over the decades. And with that game in play, like the only solution to me, in my opinion, was just to like close the border, you know?
Right.
And
it's, you know, and when you do that, there are going to be a lot of businesses, especially in California, that are going to go, they're going to go down. Because there are a lot of them are, or the owners are going to have to stop taking so much money just to keep the business alive. I think there's going to be a combination.
I think that owners, like for example, you look at places like Beverly Hills or the very nice parts of Santa Monica next to Beverly Hills. I'm talking about in the Los Angeles area in California. Yeah, in Southern California.
And we're both from there, you and I. So.
Oh yeah, so like this, it's like a ghost town. Like the Santa Monica Promenade is dead.
It is.
The Santa Monica Place Mall is empty. It's like a ghost town. Everything looks like, you know, post-apocalyptic kind of.
Looks like COVID.
Yeah, it looks like COVID still. Yeah, and Beverly Hills, like 1 out of every 3 of the, you know, storefronts, like on Cannon and Wilshire, Olympic, and are abandoned. They're just abandoned. So it's like because before people owned a building and they would rent it out to someone that at the cost of the rent, they could still make money. But now you pretty much have to own the building and then decide you're going to work like to make money by owning the building, because now you can't just collect rent. Like you own the building, and now you need a game plan where you're going to sell something there, produce a service there, and your advantage is you don't have rent, right? But the disadvantage is now you have to fucking work, because before you just collected rent. So this changes the equation a lot. And as this has happened, you look at what happened in Southern California. Rents were driving, like the inability or the non-requirement for banks to make houses that they own, that especially if they acquired in a repossession, for sale on the market within 3 months or 6 months of acquiring it, and keep it on the market until it sells, is going to be artificially driving rents throughout the country. And as long as rents are artificially high, because real estate is artificially high, like I know it sucks if we invested in real estate to have to say this, but it's ever since the, too big to fail, the liquidity crisis, 07, 08, right? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac scandal, that we never really recovered from that, but the banks never were required, with all those houses that they repossessed, they were never required to mark them to market. So without a mark to market mechanism, like legally or regulatorily, like we have all these empty houses on the market, which is inflating, which is propping up, artificially from a real market perspective or potential market. It's artificially keeping property values up here, which drives rents, which drives costs. Like because you can't pay people. The point we're talking about getting people to work at McDonald's or in the agricultural field and things like that. And people will do those jobs if it pays enough. But it's not that the solution isn't, change the minimum wage or something. Like that's just going to keep all the costs going up. Like that, there's no challenge to the banks. There's no challenge to the scam they're running with keeping properties off the market. But that's just going to create like a more cost push inflation.
Oh, this was such an important thing because I was living out there in 2008, and I was living in the county in the nation that took the biggest hit because of the housing market falling in 08. And what you found, and I was friends with a realtor at that time, and she was telling me that basically you can't buy these REOs like unless you go through a qualification process. So the banks were holding on to properties when everything started to trend towards the bottom. You couldn't buy these properties. I think you could cash, but even cash buyers would be being turned away. And part of the reason is that if a property sells that used to be 600,000 and the average comparables in that neighborhood were let's just say 450,000, prices fell, whatever, but they still stayed. Well, if the real value of that house, like the only way to sell it is for 200,000, as soon as that $200,000 sale hits the MLS and the whole system sees that, all the homes in the area are now worth 200,000.
That's it.
And the equity of these banks is immediately cut in half by that metric.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden
they're preserving their own equity by keeping the houses off the market.
It's
the side effect is going to be
it's like boom, boom. Here's the vicious cycle, right?
Yeah, the rents are high. It's you're unemployed.
High, so then businesses have to pay ridiculously higher wages to attract people. So there's your cost push inflation there, which then so then you have a very, very dysfunctional economy, I think is what you're describing. And but all that said, I'm excited about the tariff wars. And
explain.
Yeah. But I think it'll actually work out. They're just, different groups of people that are pushing stuff, and whatever their fixation is, they're doing new things, and there's a conflict going on, and you see the conflict everywhere. So it's people are trying to push to do things differently, and as long as people are free to push in different directions, a lot of shit will sort itself. There doesn't need to be some master plan or one person who understands like human beings are free, all these different, almost hard to predict actors moving in a billion different directions, each with their own inspiration, each with their own dream, each with their own ideas about innovation and improvement. And if people are just in an environment where they are not burdened with costs and not burdened with the struggle to survive, then we like unleash the creative potential, of the whole population. So I just feel very optimistic about the way that I see things going. And I don't know why, but it's like, it doesn't mean like, don't be vigilant. Like, these are things that people have been fighting for. I'm just pointing out in places that we've been winning. There's like a lot of things to fight in other places.
Yeah.
And to keep where you're winning is a strength too. You have to reinforce, but if you don't acknowledge where you've won, then you can't even assess what strategies work,
Yeah.
So.
Very well said. Xoaquin Flores, thank you so much, man, for coming in and sharing this information with us. Again, folks, you can find him. Just click the link to the new Resistance right in the description box. Xoaquin, man, what a treasure trove.
Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, it's great. I recommend people listen to the show. Yeah, I recommend people listen to the show. Take your notes and go over it. There's a lot of information that was dispensed here. So I want to thank you.
On top of that, sorry to interrupt you, but Xoaquin is one of the hardest working guys in the business, but people don't know it. There's some weeks he has like 5 or 6, live streams over on his Telegram channel, and you can actually like talk. And so if you're not there, you'll go in the description, find those links. Like, there's a ton of amazing content coming out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Plug it. Yes. No, I needed that. Thank you. Yeah. It's the live stream we're doing. And it's I would say half or 2/3 of the listeners are content creators. Like, some of them actually are scouts for people that are, kind of larger profile, that kind of aggregate what are the ideas and stuff out there. And I've been a big source, I think, for a lot of different content aggregators out there. And
yeah, we people listen to you. We hear people repeat things that we say on Rogue as well. Like, yeah, I repeat things that you say, but I try to give you credit when I do it. So awesome, man.
Yeah.
And with that being said, absolutely. And with that being said, thank you all for listening in. We'll be back tomorrow. Take it away, Cowboy.
All right.